Hello, friends. Thank you so much for joining me today. So we had a Zoom meeting. It was awesome. We had a lot of fun, but the recording was wonky. I'll have to fix it for next time. But I wanted to make sure that everyone still got the project that we're going to be working on. So I'm going to show you what we're doing and how we're going to do it. So this is color and mark making, and we're going to be having fun and getting crafty and getting kind of loose with our art materials. That's what we're going to be working on today. So the first thing we're going to do is start with color. So I'm not going to teach you color theory. You're an artist already and you're like, color theory, I know how to do that. Or you're not interested in that. You just want to get to making the art. So I have a fun way that I like to find color palettes, and I hope that you find it fun as well. So I make my own color palettes from magazine clippings. So I go through magazines. So you're going to want to grab yourself a magazine. You don't need scissors. And then you're going to cut out a magazine clipping of a bunch of colors that you like. So I really like ones with food. Like this is like a peach arugula salad. And then I have some in watercolor and some like in colored pencil that I put together of palettes. So I have a whole selection of them. And sometimes when I can't think of something else I want to be doing an art project, I will do this, and I find it really relaxing and fun. So you're going to grab yourself a magazine, find some images, or for today, just an image that you like, and then you're going to pull some colors from that. So for today, I'm using this one, which is such a beautiful image of like these surfers on this kind of sunset beach with turquoise waters. It's really beautiful. So I picked, you're going to want 4 to 5 colors. So I'm going to pick 4, or maybe I'll grab one more later. I don't know, but I'm going to pick 4. So I have this like lime green that's, you can't quite see on the camera, but it is kind of in there, along with this like teal, and this blue is in there. And then I've got this like peachy color. Maybe I could grab like even a purple, like this color even would be fun in there. But I'm going to stick with these ones for now. Okay, so we're going to start now. We're going to go into then taking our colors. So we've figured out how to make color palettes now. Like we've figured that out. We're done. We go, okay, I know how to make a color palette easy without knowing color theory. And then, let me grab it. We're going to move on to mark making. So I made this sheet. I made it for a classroom, but it's also just a good reference for absolutely anyone and everyone. And we're going to be doing line work specifically. That's what we're going to be working with, is line work. And we're going to start with spirals. So spirals can look like this, where they're just like in on themselves, or they can be in lines like this, or they can be kind of scribbly all over the place, or they can kind of be overlapping. There's a lot of different ways to make spirals. So we're going to start off with that. So I would grab a scratch piece of paper, and then you're going to see which one you like. Maybe you like doing consecutive in on themselves. Maybe you even want to overlap them. Maybe instead of doing that, you really like the feel of doing things in lines, and so that feels better to you to have them go in a line. Maybe you're feeling a little more chaos and you're like, I want spirals that just kind of go all over the page, and maybe that feels too big. Maybe you want to go with small ones that are a little tighter, and maybe you want to go really small and really tight, right? So you can choose what really feels best for you today, what just feels fun to make, because that's the whole point. It should feel fun to make. So for me, I really like doing this kind of chaos medium-sized spiral. That's just what feels good to me. So I'm going to start, you'd want to start actually with your lightest color, but just for you to be able to see it well, I'm actually going to start with my darkest. If you're using like paint pens, because you can do this in any art material that you want. You could do this with crayons, colored pencils, paint sticks, whatever you have. But if you're doing this in a wetter or waxier medium, like you're doing it in paint sticks or you're doing this in crayon or oil pastels, you're going to want to start definitely with your lightest. Otherwise, you're going to have some funky bleeding that you're going to be like, oh, I'm kind of ruining my art material by getting dark color on your light colored art material. Okay, but for visual for you, I'm going to start with dark. Okay, so I'm going to start here and I'm just going to scribble. There's just like flowing with it and having fun. I tend to like to leave some spaces open. So as we're layering with the other colors, because that's where we're headed, we can kind of see, I can see the texture of it. I find that really fun. And like I said, we're going to start with spirals, but as we move along, we're going to move into a lot of the other mark making. And mark making is the basis of all art. All art. Even lettering, even like language, like it all starts with just mark making in different shapes. And so it's a good place to just begin being free in your expressive art. The goal here is not to think too much. Don't think about, where am I going to put this? Is this the right place? There isn't a right place. There's just the place you put it. And if it looks really chaos, great. All the better. Let it be what it is. And if you didn't end up loving the way the color combination works out, that's okay. It's just a piece of paper. And you can grab another piece of paper and do it with some different colors. It's okay to just play and for it to not end up being a something when you're done. Okay, when you're finished with that, you're going to grab a second color. So I'm going to grab this limey green color. It's called spring green. And I'm going to layer that in. And maybe I'm not going to cover the whole thing. Maybe I will. I'm not sure. We'll see. And I'm going to do the exact same thing I started with. So if I had big spirals, I'm going to still do big spirals. If I had small spirals, I'm going to do small ones. You're just layering those colors in the same motion. The same sort of thing. And you might even want to think about what kind of doodles you did in the margins of your papers now or when you were a kid. What sort of shapes or things did you do? And if you were to put them all over a piece of paper and layer them in different colors, what would it look like? Would it be geometric? Would it be really wild? Would it look, how do you think it might look? You could definitely try it out and see what kind of creations you can come up with. You're having a lot of freedom of expression in your art here. Okay. Then I'm going to go with a third. So you want 3 layers of your spiral. So I'm going to move on to this color, and maybe I'm actually going to do a lighter shade. Maybe I'll do a lighter one. Okay. And layer that in there. And it shouldn't look, this ends up looking a lot like the other one. And because of the other lime and the blue, and that lime has a lot of yellow in it, it's going to look kind of green, which is fun. And I'm going to just add more spirally texture. There's so many different ways of layering this. And again, if you're just picking any mark and then you're beginning to layer it over, 3, 4 layers, it's going to gain interest. It's going to be just like experimental in what you can come up with and maybe inspire you to make some even more interesting and different art. And then I'm going to move on with one more color. And this one I'm going to do in a different mark making. So there's a lot of different ones to choose from. You don't even, this isn't all of them. This is just some I thought of. But there's so many different lines. Like there's scallops. There's, you have dashes. You have, loose squiggles. You have arrows. You have these like kind of like sonic boom things. Like waves. So much. But this is actually the one I'm going to pick, which is this loose squiggle. So it's not a spiral, right? It's like a loose, like think of when a 3-year-old grabs a pencil and then they just like chaotic go all over the page. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go with embrace the chaos and just let it go all over. I'm not going to think about it. I'm not thinking, does this look good? Am I going to put this in the right spot? Is this how I want this to look? I'm layering and layering and layering. This is a color combination I have done before, and I know I like it, but I've done plenty of other ones where I was like, oh, that kind of turned out more brown. It wasn't really what I was hoping for, and that's okay. It was interesting to make, and I hold on to those papers for a later time when I might collage them, use them in other pieces of art, so it's not a waste by any means. I'm not wasting it. I'm going to use it, and besides, if you had fun making it, and it was relaxing for you, then it wasn't a waste. It doesn't have to go up on the wall or the fridge or whatever. It can just be fun to make it. And so that's your goal. Just have fun making your art. All right. Okay. So last I think I might add a little bit of like this butter yellow. And I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to do another like wild scribble, and you want to add just because it just looks like it needs more layering. It needs more to make it kind of glow and shine and whatever. And when we did this in the Zoom meeting, they were so interesting and so different to see everyone's different representations of it and how they turned out. So fun. So fun. Okay, so I'm done with this. I'm going to hold it up to my face, even though you can kind of see it on the desk, but I'm going to hold it up here. And you can see I have this like layering texture going. And is it something I'm going to put on my wall? No, but it did teach me a lot about like how these colors merge. It was really fun to make. And you can do it in an entirely different way. Like let's say we're not going to do scribbles, and instead we're going to take it into straight lines. We're going to do it in an entirely different way. Now we're going to go into the top part, which is hatching. Right? So hatching you can do for shading. It's really good for shading things if you're going to do other drawings. But like there's these dash hatching, there's like X hatching, there's this kind of like changing directions hatching, there's like crosses hatching. And this one's fun too if you're making like palm trees and stuff. This works really cool. And hatching works really well for making like bark and stuff like that. But we're going to be doing here this type of line work, and you can pick any which way you want, whatever your heart desires there. I think I'm going to start with making the crosses. That's what I'm going to make this time. I haven't done it yet, and I was like, this could be really interesting, these crosses. And they tend to look interesting all together. Maybe some I'm going to make kind of upside down, maybe a lot right side up. Maybe I'm going to layer them really densely up at the top here, and then maybe down here I'm going to space them out more. Maybe they look a little bit more like T's, right? Maybe some I'm going to make really tiny, and some I'm going to make gigantic. And just layering them on top of each other and seeing what comes from that. And it's a good practice. If you're a working artist, a lot of times you're going to get kind of stuck and not know where to begin in your next project. And this is all just like good experimental work to try and get back in your groove of doing a new art project. And if you are not a professional artist and you're like, I don't even consider myself an artist at all, like I don't make art, then this can be a good way of just bringing out some creativity in your life, right? Like we could all use a little bit more relaxation and creativity. So this is gonna gain some of that. Okay, so all right, I started with some T or cross hatching, and I'm gonna add in. And maybe I'm gonna cover the whole page, maybe I'm not. I think for the sake of speed of the video, I'm just gonna go really quick, but you obviously don't have to. You can take your sweet time and do it however, make yourself a T. I love how when this teal and this lime green intersect, it makes this like brighter green. It's interesting. And you can always do that too. If you're like, how are these colors going to even look together? You can kind of like scribble and then scribble on top like that and see, oh, how do these look together? How does this one look in there, right? And you can scribble them and kind of just even see if ahead of time you wanted to do that, you could. There's no mean, you don't have to. But I do love pulling color from magazines. They've already done all the hard work for you. You don't have to understand color theory. Just go with it. Okay, and then I'll go with that third, or what was that, fourth color? Yeah, and layer that into, and you could cover the whole page, you could not. You could do however you want it to feel. But this layering ends up just looking so cool. Okay, and I could cover the whole page. I could just cover a section. Maybe I feel like I want to add some more over here. I go, I want to add a little bit more. I want to add more of this lime. It needs to extend out. Create a little bit more interest over there. Yeah, and I'm going to call this done. All right, so go into the world, grab some color, grab a magazine, make a clipping, pick some colors from your crayons, colored pencils, oil pastels, watercolors, whatever you got, and make some cool color palettes. Grab yourself some mark making ideas or even shapes. You can pull from shapes and have fun. I look forward to seeing the art that you make. Please post it in the Press Play Club chat. And I'll see you next time. Bye.